Hi, boys and girls. This is Miss Hunter and Miss Dora. We are back this week with a PowerPoint to teach you how to do equivalent fractions. So our essential question is, what strategies can I use to determine if two fractions are equivalent? So remember that fractions represent a part of something out of the total number of parts. So here on your screen, you should see 4/5. So we know the number on top is our numerator, and that's our number of parts. Our denominator is 5, and that is the total number of parts out of the whole. So the denominator is our total number of the whole. So if the fraction above was representing a pizza, the pizza was sliced into 5 slices. So that would be our total, the whole. 4 of those 5 slices were eaten. So 4 out of the 5 pieces of that pizza would have been eaten. Okay, equivalent fractions are fractions that name the same amount. So 1/4 and 2/8 are equivalent. And you can see that they have drawn an example. You have the same amount of something. One is divided into 4 bigger parts, but the other is divided into 8 smaller parts. But the part that is shaded in that blue color is still the same. So 1/4 and 2/8 are equivalent. So Miss Dora is going to jump in and she is going to talk about the first strategy to help us determine if fractions are equivalent.
All right, friends, our first strategy is to multiply or divide the numerator and the denominator. Step 1, ask yourself, what could I multiply or divide the numerator by in the first fraction to get the numerator in the second fraction? So here we have 3/5 and 6/10. The numerator in the first fraction is 3. The numerator in the second fraction is 6. So what am I going to do? Multiply or divide? I'm going to multiply. 3 times 2 equals 6. In step 2, since we multiply 3 by 2 to get 6, you must see if that also works with the denominators. So does 5 times 2 equals 10? Yes. So 3/5 times 2 is equal to 6/10. So 3/5 and 6/10 are equal. Remember, whatever you do to the numerator, you have to do to the denominator. So since we multiplied the numerator by 3, we have to divide the denominator by 2. 3 times 2 and 5 times 2 to show that they are indeed equivalent. All right, friends, take out a sheet of notebook paper, and I want you to practice determining if these fractions are equivalent by multiplying and dividing the numerator and the denominator by the same number. Let's do the first one together. We have 3/6 and 1/3. 3 divided by what would equal 1? That's right, 3 divided by 3 equals 1. So remember, the same thing that we do to the top, we have to do to the bottom. So what are we going to divide 6 by? 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So are these equal, friends? No. All right, on your sheet of notebook paper, I want you to practice 2/5 and 6/15, and then compare 1/2 and 4/8 and check to see if they are equivalent.
All right, boys and girls, strategy 2 is to draw fraction models. So step 1, you need to draw 2 rectangles that are the same in length. And the fractions that we are going to be using are 3/5 and 6/10. So step 2, divide the rectangles into parts based on the denominators in the fraction. So remember, the denominator is the number that is on the bottom. So For 3/5, the number that's on the bottom is 5. So you can see on our top fraction model, they have divided it into 5 equal parts. Our fraction model on the bottom, they are splitting it into tenths because in 6/10, 10 is the denominator and 10 is on the bottom. So we have split it into 10 equal parts. Remember, when you're drawing these at home on your notebook paper, boys and girls, do your best to make sure that your parts are as even as possible. I know sometimes it's hard to get it that way by hand, but try your very best to make them as even as you can. Okay, step 3, we are going to shade. We always shade the number that's in the numerator. Remember, the numerator is the top number. So in 3/5, our numerator is 3. So in our top fraction model, they have shaded 3 out of the total 5 pieces. On our bottom fraction model, we had 6/10. 6 is in the top, 6 is the numerator. They have shaded 6 of the 10 parts. Step 4, you want to look at your fraction models and you can draw a line through both of them to see if they match up. If they do, you know that your fractions are equivalent. So here you can see that 3/5 and 6/10 are taking up the same amount of shaded space. Therefore, they are equal and they are equivalent fractions. All right, let's practice. I will do one with you, and then you can do the other 2 on your notebook paper at home. So let's look at 3/6 and 1/2. And I'm going to draw 2 rectangles for my fraction models, and I'm going to try to make them as even as possible on my screen here. Okay, so for my top model, I'm going to do 3/6. I need to split this into 6 equal parts because my denominator is 6. So let's see if I can get it as equal as I can. Okay, I have 6 parts. Now, for my second fraction model, I have a half. The denominator is 2, so I need to just split it in half. Okay, next I want to look at my numerator. So let's go back to 3/6. My numerator is 3. So I know I need to shade 3 of those 6 pieces. So I'm going to shade 1, 2, 3. All right, on my second fraction model, I'm going to look at my half. 1 of the 2 is shaded. So I'm only going to shade 1 of those 2 parts. Next, I'm going to draw a line down both of my fractions so I can visually see that the amount that is shaded is the same. It is equal. So 3/6 and a half would be equivalent. Boys and girls, I want you to try 2/7 and 4/14 on your own paper. And then I want you to try a half and 3/4 on your own paper. See if you can figure out if those fractions are equivalent. All right, strategy 3 with Miss Dora.
All right, strategy 3 is to cross multiply your fractions. First step, multiply the denominator of your first fraction by the numerator of our second fraction. Here, our first fraction is 3/5. Our second fraction is 6/10. The denominator of our first fraction is 5, and the numerator in our second fraction is 6. So we will multiply 5 times 6, which is 30. Step 2 is to multiply the denominator of the second fraction by the numerator of your first fraction. Here, our denominator in the second fraction is 10. The numerator in the first fraction is 3. So 10 times 3 is 30. Step 3, you're going to compare your 2 products or answer to your multiplication problems. We had 3 times 10, 5 times 6. Both products are 30. So this 30 equals 30, indeed. So 3/5 equals 6/10. All right, I want you to practice on your sheet of notebook paper. The first set of fractions are 4/8 and 2/4. You're going to multiply the denominator in the second fraction by the numerator in your first fraction. 8 times 2 is 16, and 4 times 4 is also 16. So when you cross multiply, both products are 16 and 16. So 4/8 is equal to 2/4. All right, on your sheet of notebook paper, I want you to practice comparing and cross multiplying 3/6 and 1/3 and 1/4 and 2/12.
Okay, guys, now it's your turn. So I want you to pick one of the three strategies that you've learned today to solve the following word problems. You can share your answers in the comments below. The question that you're going to be solving is Aiden made a pie. He wants to share the pie with 2 other people. What are 2 ways he can cut the pie? So take a minute, review this video, pick your favorite strategy, and solve that question. Remember, we want to see your answers in the comments. So in conclusion, today we have learned about equivalent fractions. We learned the answers to the following. 1, what are equivalent fractions? By the end of this video, I hope you could tell us all what an equivalent fraction is. Number 2, what are 3 strategies that you can use to determine if 2 fractions are equivalent? I hope this video has given you a little bit more idea of what equivalent fractions are and has made you feel a little bit comfortable in using them. I look forward to seeing your answers in the comments. And me and Miss Dora will see you next week.
See ya.